got a chance to finish the limited series Griselda, starring Sofia Vergara. Let's find out if it's any good right now. Alright, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me and hearing my tirades about movies, television, and comic books. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Before we begin, I am your host, Frank Zanka. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer. And on top of that, if you can, give me a like and subscribe. That would be amazing because I am trying to grow the channel out. So thank you very much for your help there. Also, if you're interested in anything I've written, if you're a fan of comics or a fan of vampires, Lords of L.A., issues 1 and 2 we're doing late pledge on Indiegogo right now. So you can definitely jump into that while you can because I will be discontinuing certain covers and things to that effect. So this will be kind of the last chance you get to see some of this stuff. And it's available in the link below. So go to the Indiegogo link and give me some love. It's not very expensive. So, yeah, jump in on that. The artwork's actually pretty good. Marilyn Monroe's in it. Things to that effect as well. So to take place in 1950s Hollywood. So let's jump into Griselda. I am a fan of Sofia Vergara, but I've only really seen her in a couple of things. Mostly it's comedies. So this kind of reminded me about when Katie Sagal did Jumped Off Married with Children, which is kind of what we knew her for. And then she did a very dramatic role in Sons of Anarchy and just cut it out of the park. And that's how I feel with this, is that Sofia Vergara jumped into waters that we had never really seen her in before. And she just knocked this out of the park, man. I mean, she took this and she ran with it. They had makeup on her that made her look like you couldn't even recognize her. Unless you knew that going in that it was her and you heard her voice, you probably couldn't even tell it was her. I guess they shaved off her eyebrows and put fake eyebrows on. She had wigs on, so her hair looked completely different. They put a different nose covering on her, and then they gave her buck teeth on top of that. So, I mean, her look was completely altered. And I really respect actors that will take what Charlize Theron does this, especially what she did with herself in Monster. Actors and Tom Cruise did it too, where his face, he had to wear a mask because he was messed up with his face. I really respect actors that'll say, you know what, I'm a pretty actor, but you know what, it's not about that, it's about the character. And I really, really appreciate that, and it shows here how much that she really wanted to embody this character. She doesn't really look like the character, but she wanted to look different than herself. So I completely understand that, and I think it really works here. So the writer-creators of this show, it's only I think it's an 8-episode on Netflix, and they're about an hour or so long. And it's Carlo Bernard and Doug Miro are the same creators from Narcos, which makes sense, right? They're kind of following along that trail. But together they also wrote, things like The Great Wall. I know a lot of people didn't like that, but me and my mom liked that movie. Also, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, stuff like that. So they've written stuff together in the past. But they created the show right after doing, they did Narcos, and so they could pretty much write their own ticket when it comes to doing something along those same lines. And then Ingrid Escaleta, I hope I said that correctly. She did like Justified and things like that. So you had some really heavy hitters here for showrunners on this. And mostly, if you're looking for diversity, you're not going to find it here. Unless you think diversity is only Latin. Or only not having white people. If you think that's diversity, then you probably have it. Because this is almost 100% a Latin production. Which is fine here because it's about Colombian culture. And if you start putting in a whole bunch of white people or a whole bunch of black people, or it's not correct then. So I think they kind of held to the culture of the time and the place, because it takes place almost 100% in Miami. And it takes place in Colombia to a certain extent, and then in California to a certain extent. I think they pretty much did shoot it in Miami. I don't know that for a fact, but it did look like Miami where they were shooting most of the time. And they probably had a second unit that they did. I don't think they went to Colombia, but I think they had something else that matched it. But I did think they had a second unit in California, which makes sense because I think, most part the actors all live there. So what's great about this show, it's basically a cops and robbers type of show by the time you get down to the nitty gritty. But so we almost have like a Miami Vice situation going on. But it starts out, and even the showrunners even said that, is how are we going to take these characters that are, for the most part, evil and have you care for them? So that was their biggest hurdle to get over, and I totally get that. Because even when you're pitching a show like that, you have these people that are stone cold murderers, and you have to root for them for the most part. So the beginning, and this is a very easy 3-act structure that takes place over these 8 episodes. So again, I'm going to look at this from the point of a filmmaker. So if you're a film buff out there, or if you're a budding film producer, writer, director, look at it from this point of view, and I'll give you some kind of an insight. First of all, the costume director, the costume designer, and the set designer have to really delve into the time, because this takes place from the 70s into the 80s for the most part. She didn't die until 2012 at 70 years old, but for the most part, we're talking about 70s and 80s. That's when this mostly takes place. And I don't really think it even gets into the 90s, because I think it goes into the 90s when she gets released from prison. So, of course, there's no spoilers here because, it's true life. So, in the first act, we see her get away from her abusive husband. And we find out in just little pieces of dialogue that even though his family was very powerful in Colombia when it came to drugs, that she was semi the brains, right? She was already kind of telling him what to do. Anytime that he didn't do what she told him to do, it would be a failure. And so we established right in the beginning that she's kind of the brains. And the fact that she'll do anything for the family to a certain point. But when he makes her go a little bit too far, she rebels. And that's when she decides that she is going to take the kids and leave. So at that point in time, she has 3 boys. 2 are pretty much the same age, and then there's a younger boy named Ozzy. And one's name is Uber. I thought that was pretty funny. So you have Uber, Dixon, and Ozzy. All right? And so she flees to Miami, and she hooks up with her old friend, whose name is Carmen, who has also got away from an abusive drug-related relationship, and she now runs a tourist thing. Was before we had Expedia and stuff like that. So it's like a travel agency, back in the late 70s. And she realizes that she's not going to make any money this way working for her friend, but her friend sets her up in this, just a one room. All 4 of them are in one room. And this isn't working for her, and she had taken 1 key of Coke with her. And she was going to sell that 1 key of Coke to basically be able to get the family some money. And when I say the family, it's her and the three boys. So that doesn't work out very well. She tries to play tough guy. Things get kind of bad. And so things don't work out very. We keep seeing all these setbacks. This whole first act is her purely trying to start out on her own and having setback after setback after setback, where anybody else would have just given up. She didn't. She was going to accomplish what she wanted. And then, of course, when she starts gaining a little power, because she's a woman, especially in a Latin culture, she's not seen as an equal. So, especially, in the 70s, and where, in the regular United States, women were already at that point starting to become equals. But, of course, in the Latin culture, it took a little bit longer. Although the cop does get those kind of setbacks as well, where it's a little bit of sexism. So, again, all these things wouldn't occur today. And we actually see the changing of the times between the 70s and the 80s when it comes to sexual equality. So the whole second act now is her gaining power, where we're seeing her finally getting the equality that she wants for the most part, her gaining respect, her gaining her fortune, and everything is hunky-dory. So we see all this stuff where she's, handing out gifts to her employees, treating her employees correctly, bringing people in from Colombia to gain her army, where she basically lives in a compound where nobody can touch her. And we get a little bit of the Godfather thing going on, where at the same time, they're actually calling her godmother during this period of time as well. So the loyalty to her was through the roof, and because anybody that gave sacrifice for her, they knew that she would take care of their family. So then we get into the third act where the cops are getting closer. We have June, who is the cop, who is also pushing for equality, and she's extremely brilliant. And it's funny because she was actually very pretty in real life, too. I think she semi-matches the actress that played her on that. And so she is a strategic genius, really. And the guys aren't only later on give her the respect that she deserves. And on top of that, the guy that gives her shot is set up, by Griselda. And she's almost wants to take revenge for that as well. And she's a single mom. And we're getting into more of the, the nuances of the family, dissolving, which they are on today, where people don't stay married very long and stuff to that effect. So we're seeing some of those changes in society as well. But at the end, we're seeing Griselda just become a monster, where she is just off the rails. She is getting high all the time. She's making mistakes. She's treating her partners who are also killers, getting them to the point of breaking, where she basically has to go on the run. So we get to see, her start, and you couldn't do this in a film because you couldn't see that gradual change from ambition to destruction, which we see in a lot of, bands and stuff like that. And that is one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to the Bob Marley movie, because almost all the band movies are exactly the same. We get to the ambition, we get to the self-destruction, where I don't think the Bob Marley movie is going to be like that. So, because I think I don't really know much about his story, so I'll reserve till I go see that one. Heavily, heavily recommend this 8-episode season. It will keep you coming back, even when you see her self-destructing and you see all the pain she's causing. You're still coming back for more to see if eventually she's going to come back to the light side, but she never does. So it's really a good story. especially when you juxtapose that to June's story as the cop. Like I said, we're going to the cops and robbers situation here. And I think it really, really works. I think the showrunners did a great job. I think the cast did a really great job. I think the crew did a good job. The DP, they had some really good stuff with making it look like the time period. So I think the DP did a good job. But Sofia Vergara's performance here is amazing. Just amazing. If you were ever wondering if she could only do this stupid comedy stuff that she did with Modern Family and things to that effect, absolutely not. She is a top tier. This shows that she was a top tier actress that just wasn't able to get there. Kind of like, say, Katie Seagal when she was doing Sons of Anarchy and blew that out of the park. Anyway, check it out. But that's it for me. If I was going to rate this on a scale from 1 to 10, this is an 8. 8 to 8.5. It's very, very good and intriguing and engrossing. So, and let me know if you guys agree or disagree. Like I saw that it only had a 7.5 on IMDb, and I highly disagree with that. But let me know what you guys think, Leo. See if I'm just praising it just far too much. All right, and remember that Lords of LA is on Indiegogo. If you can support it, please do. The link is in the description below. I am finishing up the last 8 to 10 pages of art, and we're done. And because it is 48 pages, so we're pretty close. And on top of that, Mark Spears and I are working diligently. If you guys are into card games, we're doing, or even classic monsters, we're doing a classic monsters card game, area control deck builder game, which is also going to be lots of fun. All right. Remember to like and subscribe. If you're not subscribed already, why the hell not? It's free. Click the button. Check out some of my other videos as well. And you guys have a great week. Thank you again for spending time with me.